But in the life of sadhana, the victory are these quiet moments when you've applied your pause, when you've, gone against, like you've done the tapasya of going against something and you found the power to do that. You found the courage in yourself. Somehow you observe that there's been some transformation in your thinking after, working with it and applying it. So these moments are the quiet victory that we don't notice until we start to bring in the pause, which is space.
Welcome to a Curious Yogi podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, joined by living masters and awakening friends. We're here to illuminate your practice as we explore what it means to walk the yogi's path, unfold peace from within, and live the vision of oneness. I'm so delighted you're here. Now let's get curious. Welcome back to a Curious Yogi podcast with another rendition of Good Company. Today's guest is Hirdaya. And this is a really special kind of full circle episode for me because Hirdaya was kind of the catalyst, the inspiration for creating a Curious Yogi podcast. She was the very first guest that I had on the show. So now here we are, season 4, episode 8, and Hirdaya was there, season 1, episode 1. She is an inspiration. First and foremost, she is a fellow devotee. She's a teacher, and in fact, she is a master in her own right. She has devoted her whole entire life, with the exception of her formative years, where she spent growing up in Canada, devoted to the study and the lived and applied philosophy of meditation, of oneness, of non-dualism. She is just the best. And before we jump into the episode and I speak anymore, I just want to start by highly recommending getting on Hirdaya's newsletter list. She offers a monthly satsang, which it's really great for North America. I believe she usually has them on Sunday evenings once a month. And they are amazing. So if you're interested in participating more in dialogue and satsang and deepening your meditation practice, go check out her website, hirdayameditation.com, and check out episode 1 of this podcast to hear Hirdaya's wisdom and her story, and also see how far we've come with this little podcast project. So I just want to also really be honest. I have been struggling and editing this podcast today, rehearing the conversation is exactly what I needed. I know if you're a human being living in the world, you're a seeker like me, a sensitive soul, some days it just feels like too much work, too much busyness, too much to do, too much responsibility. And this conversation really reminded me to continue choosing this pause, the sky space, and not struggle with the pairs of opposites which occur, like Hirdaya said, in the cycles of the mind. Just keep pausing, keep stepping back, and don't call it nothing, call it space. And I loved when she said, you cannot produce what we already are, which is such a good reminder when the whole life, the society is just getting us wrapped up in this, like Heidi says, paradigm of producing and achieving, but the space is who we are. I love this analogy of searching for your glasses, which are already on your head. It just takes one stroke of realization to say, aha, it's there all along. I just needed to get some space. So I love this conversation, and I love Hirdaya so much. I always call her when I need advice. She has offered the kind of advice to me of a true friend. And this kind of advice, the kind of yogic satsangi advice that Hirdaya always offers, is compassionate. She has compassion for the mind, but she always stands for the space. And that's a true satsangi. And before we jump into this great conversation, I just want to remind you that this episode was recorded live. And open to Patreon members to participate. So you will hear some wonderful moments and reflections from actually one of my original Patreon members, Jackie, who tunes in from Ireland. What a great full circle episode. One of my first guests plus one of my first Patreon members. How cool is that? And we will be doing more of these live stream episodes where you can participate actively as Jackie did, or more passively, just watching and commenting in the chat. And I'm still refining the technical aspects of doing this, but messy or not, I think it's so important, and part of why this podcast is here, it's to build community, to support each other's practice, to express where we are. For me, that has been such an essential part of my sadhana, so I am super happy to share it with you. So if you're curious or ready to become more involved and supported, please join us over on Patreon. And my final announcement is to please get on my newsletter if you haven't already. I've got lots coming up, like a meditation course, along with early bird prices and info sessions for our 2026 Yog Sadhana Retreat Himalaya in Northern India. Or just drop me an email to say hi if you've been listening to the show. Truly, truly, your presence adds value to this community, and I love to hear from you. So, without further ado, here is the good, the greatest, the best company of Hirdaya. All right, so we're live. So we were just chatting before we pressed record that this is my new kind of format or experiment, because I like to kind of experiment, live streaming these special conversations with guests who have been on the podcast before, and just opening up the space for Patreon members who are subscribers to the podcast to listen, to join in, to participate. So for those that are listening live, welcome. And for those that are going to listen to the recording later, welcome. And highest welcome, biggest praise to you, Hirdaya, for joining once again on a Curious Yogi podcast. And I have to start this by saying that you were the inspiration for this whole project. And now I counted. I told you yesterday I thought I was at almost 100, but it's actually 87 episodes since we had our last conversation.
Amazing.
So it's so perfect you're back again as my dear friend and wise one and advisor and just fellow sadhak. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great. We just, I think, going back to why I started this project, and like we had just said before too, how important it is to be in good company. That's what the title of these little candid conversations are. It's called Good Company, because that's why we love to be together and share sadhana together. And like you said too, just before we started recording, it's so rare. So it's such a jewel to have just a moment with a friend to talk about the highest.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. And, I really wanted these conversations just to be like a spontaneous expression, whereas the other podcast episodes, they're more of like an interview format. So, I kind of wanted to bring people into the magic of having satsangi friends, because that's what, if people are listening to this podcast, that's what they love. They love the satsang and they love to connect in that way.
Yeah.
How have you found, like, you've lived your whole life in the spiritual community?
Yeah.
Like, what value has that good company had in your in your spiritual growth, but in your life in general.
Huge, absolutely huge. I think I can remember, before I started meditating and meeting people, kind of fellow people on the path, kind of how, in a way, alone I felt, because, and then as we were saying before, and I think it's kind of important, like the most important thing on this path is what we call Shravan, which is hearing. And, so we grow up with like hearing our name, hearing rules, hearing regulations, hearing the news, hearing, every day we're just hearing, we're bombarded with hearing, right? And the sounds shape us. They shape our thinking. So it's so vital, and nobody tells us, right? Until we start doing sadhana, nobody says it's so, so important what you hear and who you talk to and what vibrations you kind of surround yourself with as much as you can make that choice. So I just also want to really appreciate you because um, you've just dedicated, once you found this, it's like you just dedicated your life to this, to surrounding yourself with, the vibrations of the truth in wherever you could find it and however you could create it. And you're such a powerhouse. And so I really salute you. And I feel like this is the most important thing is what we hear. And so if we intentionally put ourselves in a situation where what we are hearing is something different from, just making us into a person, a body, a relation, a worker, a citizen, a person with fear, a person with anxiety, a person with depression, a person with happiness and sadness. Like, what if you could hear something totally different about you and talk about it, with people? Like, how uplifting would that be? So I think the greatest value of this kind of talk is that you have the right to choose that kind of company and be uplifted. And that includes people listening, right? Like if anyone who's listening to this, whenever and however, you've chosen to listen to this as your company for the time that we're here. And so and you'll notice the effect. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And just speaking of this, we have someone in the lobby waiting to come in. So I'm just going to let Jackie in, one of our
Great.
Patreon members. And Martine is in the chat also. So Martine, if you want to express anything, feel free. Hey, Jackie.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Great. Welcome. So we were just talking, Jackie, about Shravan and the importance of hearing this truth and choosing this truth. And I know that's why you're here and why you appreciate being in satsang company and why you love the podcast. And same with Martine that's in the chat. So I think it's just, it has been something that's brought so much value to my life, being away as if from my spiritual community, but how we can just live in this sort of technological age and, like we were just saying too, take advantage of what's there, that we can feel connected. Like, you're in India, Hirdaya. Jackie is in Ireland. I'm in Sweden. Martine
Wow.
is in Netherlands. And it's like, and
Yeah.
how many people listen? It's like, why shouldn't we use what's there to practice that Shravan again and again? Like, whatever tools are
Yeah.
there, let's
Yeah.
take them.
That's right. And then you bring that into your life, right? Because it doesn't just end once you kind of get off the podcast or finish your conversation. Those vibrations, that frequency, that upliftment, that stays with you, right? And then you do the next thing, which is called Manan, which means that then you're thinking about it and you're going deeper with it in your thought, even while you're just moving about in your day, right? It's staying with you. So now your attention can dwell on something different from just your regular mundane things that your attention dwells on. Like we have such a gift as human beings of what we can do with our attention. And then the third thing, this is sort of considered like the formula for good company, really, is Shravan, Manan. And then the third thing is called Nidhi Dhyasan, which is a very complicated sounding word, but it just means like now you're applying it. Now you've heard it, you've thought about it, you've gone deeper with it, it's kind of sunk into you a bit more, you've absorbed it, and now you can apply it. So I think it's a brilliant formula, and I love that you're creating this.
Wow, right away we're just like into Shravan, Manan, Nidhidhyasan, like going for the like advanced yoga, but that's also inspiring too. And like Jackie, you can also feel free to hop in at any time if you have something to express. But I also love that we can use this space to continue to evolve and to grow the awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's for, right?
Yeah. Jackie, you want to express?
Yeah, I was just going to say this morning I was doing a meditation practice and a bit of yoga, and how you really have to prioritize that. And as you were saying, Hirdaya, it carries with you, it carries on through the day. And if I
Yes.
miss it, I really, really notice it. And this morning, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you sit in meditation and it is really hard. And other days it goes
Yeah.
really well. And this morning it was one of
Yeah.
those mornings that actually went really well. And there I was sitting in bliss. And I said, why do I not prioritize this? You have your list of to-do things. I should do this and I need to do that. And none of that matters. None of that
Yeah.
matters, you know? Uh,
Yeah, that's so true though. How do we um if you're living your life with that kind of intention, higher intention, then it means you have to, and I think it's harder when you have your to-do lists and but there's always going to be something that's kind of pulling you. It's just the nature of the mind, right? It's always going to say no, 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 like this is more important, this is more important. And so we learn again, it's Shravan, right? Because that's an internal kind of hearing, is our thinking. Our thinking is speaking to us all day long, right? And so, yeah, so we're like listening. What thoughts do we choose to listen to and prioritize?
Nice. Actually, that reminds me, Hirdaya, the last guest I had on the podcast was Zach, our mutual
Ah,
friend. And I know
great.
Jackie loved that episode as well. But that's something that he talked about actually, how the whole world as we grow up just says to a child, this is right, this is wrong, you can't do this, you can't do that. And how he was this kind of experiment of having someone in his ear saying, you're never mistaken, you're never
Yeah,
mistaken. And
beautiful.
having that Shravan, and I think that's something like why we're attracted to satsang, because we want to hear that truth, which we know we are. We're all have that sort of like, we hear the truth and our ears pick up. And then it's like what you said, Jackie, then we feel so empowered to choose. I'm choosing my sadhana, I'm choosing the meditation, I'm choosing the satsang, the good company. Because it's like that self-fulfilling prophecy, I feel it evolves like that.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were both speaking that um, because we haven't, uh, almost all of us, haven't had that voice of truth from the time we were small, right? So we have other voices in our head that say other things to us that are not, you're pure, you're free, you're eternal, your nature is happiness, um, all those things which make you feel like you,
mm,
right? And so we've listened to so many other voices and we've internalized those voices. Plus, I think the nature of the human mind is such that it just works that way. It works in a kind of negative to yourself. So now what are you going to do, right? It's like you have to actually counteract. That's the word I wanted to bring in. It's like we have the power to counteract those sort of negative, um, not true voices. Even though they speak, it doesn't mean they're true. It's like if somebody said to you, your name is, I don't know, your name is Susan, you'd know that even though they're saying it and they say it every day, your name is Susan, your name is Susan, your name's not Susan. Sorry to anybody who's listening whose name might be Susan, but like to you, Bobby, right? Like your name's not Susan. So you'd be listening to that, and at a certain point, repeat, 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 you start thinking, having a doubt, maybe my name is Susan, even though your name's not Susan, right? So then you forget that your name's not Susan and you start entertaining the possibility that maybe your name is Susan. And now you're in the opposite of satsang, or good company, which is kusang, which is bad company, which means you've bought that. You bought that voice, right? So it's like you can use another power, which is that you can counteract the voice in your head. I just think that for a lot of us, we think that voice shouldn't be there. I think this is so important. Like we think that those voices that say you're Susan, or say that you're, not pure, you're not free, you're not blissful, you're not, whatever you actually are, those voices, you think they shouldn't be there. And so when they come, I feel like a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to push that voice away, or get rid of it, or think it shouldn't be there, or think there's something wrong with me because that I shouldn't have that voice, all that sort of self-criticism that can come. And it's like, actually, the mind just is like that. Like it will continue to speak with that voice that's trying to tell you what you're not. So it doesn't matter. Don't think there's anything wrong with you. Don't think it's not supposed to be like that. Don't think you did something wrong. But you can bring in, another voice that counteracts it and says, I'm not listening to you. I'm not Susan. Yeah, dear mind, I'm not listening to you. I'm listening to, again, Shravan, right? What am I choosing to listen to? So I can counteract the effect of, that sort of ignorant voice. That it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it doesn't know who I am.
And I think going back to the choice thing, and how important it is to meditate in the morning, because I don't even know, would I be here if I hadn't meditated this morning, because I have two friends downstairs who called in for a cup of coffee. They're still downstairs in my house chatting, and I'm up here.
Yeah.
So, and to
Hey,
be
good for
honest,
you.
I don't know how that would have gone if I hadn't meditated and taken time for myself this morning to keep telling myself I have a choice today in what I do. Do I want freedom?
Beautiful. I think the meditation gives us the power to make those
Absolutely. Yeah.
choices. Well, glad to be part of your day. I'm not sure what part of your day it is. We're all in different time zones, but yeah, it's great.
Well, it's good to have all the participation, and, to have the longtime listeners of the podcast just feel that we can connect and share, because that's really what it's also about, is expressing and having that power to share what's going on and how we churn on the inside. I guess, like, exactly like what you were also just saying before we started recording, Hirdaya, about tapasya, like we have that churning inside us, but when we express it, we get it out, then it feels like that's when the light comes. And I
Yeah.
think that satsang is such a good, it's the
Mm.
best platform for that.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah. Like alchemy,
Yeah, exactly.
like you offer the raw material of whatever you're thinking, or your human, being is thinking or concluding, and it has the possibility of transforming through the dialogue, right? The good company. If it's not good company, it doesn't necessarily have the possibility of transforming. It just has the possibility of going down.
Yeah. perpetuating
Yeah.
like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is for me, like, has been the most value add in my life to be
Yeah.
able to, of course, meditate and have the privacy of my own practice and build that within my own sadhana to know wherever I am, I can close my eyes. And also knowing I can open my eyes and open my mouth and open my ears,
Yeah.
and that can help in the times like we've been saying where the world is perpetuating that I am just Bobby, this individual little me with many things and many issues and all these things. But like how to like start opening up that box, that's like the real like joy of life, to start to get that mirror of reflection, and
Yeah.
whether it comes from the guru, from the teacher, or the meditation, or the one like you both reflecting, and even those that are just listening. It's like
Mm.
to have that
Yeah.
mirror
Yeah.
is kind of like the sort of saving grace in the chaos of the world.
Yeah. I think it's essential. I think, like we were saying before, I think what I would call authentic conversation is something that everybody really, really craves, and not everybody gets to experience that. So, what a gift wherever that authentic conversation can open, because of what it opens in us. It means we're opening to ourselves through the authentic conversation. We get to rise and leave. It's like you go on retreat for an hour, like you get to leave the world for a while and be in a different dimension of your own self.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, one of my students the other day was like, "Oh, I need to go on a retreat. Like, I need to get out of here." And she was so kind of disturbed. And after 1 hour of restorative yoga, she was kind of like, okay, I do still want to go on a retreat, but actually, the whole message is like we retreat within ourselves. And like, that's the kind of food every day. And of course then we go and we do a big retreat, or we go to the ashram,
Hmm.
or we do
Hmm.
those big moments of learning and expanding. But like, what about the little
That's it.
nuggets every day, that
That's
keep
it.
us kind of
That's
nourished?
it.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, that's your challenge as a practitioner, whatever kind of practitioner you are, that's your challenge, right? It's like, how are you going to apply it? Like I had said before, like, how am I going to apply this, in every moment, in every moment, in every moment, and not accept um, the voice that is not telling me the truth about myself, and choose, to be in the company of those voices or those activities or whatever it is that sort of nourish the soul, which is
Mm.
sadly missing in so much of the world, right? And also, there's something about the pace of it, right? It's like there's such a I'm sure you must see this so much, it's people who come to yoga and everything. There's such a kind of oppressive pace that people are having to live with technology, with being busy, with the to-do list, like Jackie was saying. It's just like you just feel driven by this force of activity, um and it can be really exhausting and depleting. And so to take a break from that, either like you said in your restorative yoga class, or listening to a conversation, or having a conversation, it's a different rhythm, and it's closer to the original rhythm of your own inner being. And that's why you feel like you've retreated from that sort of less helpful pace.
But it is the norm, isn't it? This busyness, it's like wearing a badge of honor, that this busyness has just become normal to be, to
It's
perform, to be successful. And it actually, Zach also said it, Hirdaya, on his podcast. And I'd never thought about it. What a gift it is to be on this spiritual path. And it's, yeah, you
Yeah,
have to
very.
do the work. Of course, you have to do the work. But what a
But you
gift.
don't, but you
What a gift.
you don't realize what it is that you're, like, to use your word, what you're prioritizing and what you're honoring, and what your value is. So it's like the value in our social structure, just like you were saying, is to be busy. The busier you are, somehow the more value you have. We don't really know why, but it's just become accepted that being busy is to be valuable and to be needed and wanted, and to run here and to run there is somehow is considered valuable. And but the effect is that it can, not always, but it can take you away from your essential self. So to value that which actually is nourishing your essential self, and to value maybe slowing down, to value space, to value freedom, to value these kinds of conversations, and to make an effort like you are, Bobby, to creating this for people. I think that's a gift as well, to so that people can, let's say they're even in their car, but they're listening to this, their attention is with this frequency, that becomes their Shravan.
And when you were speaking before about applying, I think it's like, when we think of, okay, we're driving in the car, there's times when it's so simple and easy to apply we can say applied philosophy, or the way of in which this work that we're doing, which is taking off the layers of who I am not and living as who I am, this ever
Beautiful.
free
Yeah.
being.
So
And
beautiful.
like my question is to you, you've been teaching for like so many years, you've seen so many seekers on the path, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you get asked this very often, but it's like, how do I apply that? How do we apply that in the moments when it's really hard to apply it, or the world is disturbing, or the situation, whether it's personal or like, political, like all these things that are happening that take us away from that.
Yeah.
How then do we apply that knowledge when faced with the world?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Um, a few things come to mind. The first thing I would say is pause, right? It's
Yeah.
like that kind of momentum that just wants to run it towards the problem and fix it with the same consciousness that the problem was created. And even Einstein said it'll never work, right? You can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. So, as hard as it is, right? Pause at that moment. So, even if it's for a fraction of a second, just, and then kind of in your consciousness, step back. So pause, step back, and start watching rather than doing. So you're shifting modes, right? Because like we were saying before with Jackie, all this kind of action, action, action. So something happens that makes me feel bad. I think I immediately have to take action to fix it so that I can feel good, right? So, but who you are before action is a much subtler dimension, which I would just call pure awareness. Awareness doesn't have a formula. That's why we're doing what we're doing, right? I always say this, right? Awareness doesn't have a formula. So that's why we want to keep exposing ourselves to this Shravan, Manan, Nidhidhyasan, or this hearing, absorbing, and applying, because it's building a muscle or a dimension of free awareness that's going to kick in, and it's going to start with something registers in my system that goes, this doesn't feel good, right? So a lot of times I'm just bypassing it, ignoring it, overriding it, because I'm so busy. I don't have time to think about how I'm feeling in this moment. I've just got to go and get my groceries or whatever it is that I have to do, or do the next thing. So I'm so driven by this paradigm of acting and solving and acting and solving, and it's keeping me on the same plane. So I have to leave that plane. So it takes a kind of courage at that moment, right? It's like now I'm, instead of doing everything that my system wants to do, which is to rush into the problem and start fixing it right away, I'm doing the opposite. I'm counteracting, like I said before, right? So I'm stepping back, I'm pausing. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to know with my mind what to do. So it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? Because I love knowing. Where human beings love knowing things. So if I don't know, then I'm going to feel like I'm weak, or I have all kinds of conclusions each person has about what it means if I don't know. So I have to look like I know. So I'm just going to rush into the thing thinking that I can somehow solve it. So it's like the I don't know is actually the beginning of a different kind of knowledge. So step back, pause, give it space, and it's going to go against everything that your system wants to do, your mind and your body. And so now this is where your meditation practice is going to be helpful, because that's what you're doing in meditation. You're pausing all the time, right? Even if you're just meditating for 5 minutes, but you're pausing in your day. So that's how you're going to apply your meditation, is to pause in those moments of discomfort.
Can I just share
So it
one of
goes,
Viktor Frankl's quotes? Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And
yes,
in that space is our
yeah,
power to choose our
yeah,
response. And in our response lies our
that's it.
growth and our freedom.
Yes, I love that quote. That's exactly it. So you're not a human being bound by your stimulus and response. But if you don't take that break in between, if you don't recognize it and honor it and prioritize it, to use Jackie's word, right? Then you're bound to repeat, right? The same cycle of problem, and you're staying the same. Nothing's happening to you. Neither are you transforming the problem, nor are you transforming yourself. Actually, you're just perpetuating your karma, because your karma is your thinking. So you just keep repeating the same thinking. You keep forcing your square peg into the round hole, and waiting for something to click. It never will. So you've got to do the opposite of what your whole system wants to do. Now you're applying meditation in action. You're pausing. You don't know what to do. You're allowed to not know what to do. You can even say, I don't know what to do. Now you wait. Now you've opened, right? Your awareness, your readiness to receive whatever Shravan, or hearing in the form of a thought, an inspiration, or you leave it. So, and don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. Kind of
That's
like
the
what we were saying.
tapasya.
I was just going to say that before we started, we were talking about tapasya, right? And I was saying, like, tap in Sanskrit means heat. So it's like you feel the heat, the discomfort. It's part of the path, because you're going against the natural everything of being a human being in order to unfold something higher about yourself. So that's where it's a work, right? So that's the tapasya part. But everyone thinks, oh, I'm just supposed to, like, stand in the water with my arm up for 50 years and prove that I can do that. And that's called tapasya. So no, it's not that. It's every time you go against that, that desire to rush into activity, to rush into everything natural about your normal human wheel, right? It's a wheel. So when you have the courage to step off the wheel by pausing even for a few seconds, that's tapasya, right? The result, that's what we were saying, right? Because everyone thinks it's just the heat, the heat, the heat, but the result of heat is light. So now you get the light of your own awareness, because you have desisted from perpetuating the karmic wheel all day long. So it's like, it's a big, big happening.
Yeah, and it does, when you're speaking, I was thinking so much like how it's the real advanced practice is the inner practice, like someone could see outwardly someone say sitting and meditating and say, wow, they're just doing nothing, sitting with their eyes closed. Or, in a time of crisis, like just taking a pause and closing one's eyes. But that's really going against the whole world. And I love this one quote of Swamiji's that I already always say, to do sadhana, you have to be stronger than the whole world.
Wow,
Because,
yeah.
it's like, but it is so much work to not get in the snowball effect of, we can say the whole world, but that includes me and my vrittis, which are just going and going and going, and how much effort is required, how much dedication and devotion to one's own sadhana and growth. It really takes like earnestness. That was my word of the year, earnestness.
Love
Like,
it. I love
you
that.
know?
That's what all the scriptures say, that you can't, in order to be on this path, you need a sincerity and earnestness. You have to have that. But I was going to say that um, in the like what Jackie was saying before about success, right? What the normal, let's say, worldly consciousness endorses as success is like that busyness, or being famous, or having a lot of money, or having a successful romantic life, or having kids that are well adjusted. I mean, it just goes on and on. All these sort of worldly achievements that are considered to be successful, that we then take on as a pressure that we have to somehow meet, right? And and then you're considered victorious in your life, right? But in the life of sadhana, the victory are these quiet moments when you've applied your pause, when you've gone against, like you've done the tapasya of going against something, and you found the power to do that. You found the courage in yourself. Somehow you observe that there's been some transformation in your thinking after working with it and applying it. So these moments are the quiet victory that we don't notice until we start to bring in the pause, which is space, because we're not only made up of activity. We're not only made up of physicality. We're not only made up of worldly achievements. That's why it will leave us ultimately feeling some sense of dissatisfaction. We're made of space. We're the same, when we were children and we played, or we just had a natural sense of knowing, it's just space, right? So everything that's I want to add this to your question about what to do when those difficulties arise. We forget that everything that's arising, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right, is arising in you. You're like the sky container that's sort of neutral and vast, and it doesn't get lost just because a difficulty arises. So now your difficulty is so small compared to how vast you are. And that's actually our sadhana, is to not forget, not to lose the vastness. So there's nothing to do about rushing into the difficulty. It's to step back into the vastness that we are, and remember that we're like the sky. So for the sky, what does it matter if a bird flies in the sky? If a meteor goes through the sky, if a satellite goes through the sky, if a UFO goes through the sky, if a bird poops in the sky, right? If a drone goes through the sky, nothing happens to the sky. And so ultimately, this becomes our victory, our achievement, the light that comes out of the tapas, right? And the result of these kinds of authentic conversations that you have so beautifully initiated, the result is just to remember that you're the sky. It's not a big effort. It's not like, oh, I have to do 10 hours more of yoga and 5 hours more of meditation and, all that kind of effort filled sadhana that we've also been trained into because our we are so honoring, falsely honoring of busyness. So we think our sadhana should also be busy. But it's not. You're already pure. You're already the sky. You just forgot because you got busy looking at all the clouds and the birds and the this and the that. You completely forgot that you're containing everything. And there's no minute in your life where that's not true.
Yeah, that's such an important distinction that it's the nature also of the mind to forget. And I love what you said, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And on the flip side, the joy, the delight, and the happiness, like it's all coming from that same source. And as long as I'm perceiving with my human intellect, by design, it's meant to say this is bad, good, bad and ugly, and this is good and wonderful. But how to start to perceive, like from the sky view, and it's like, yes, then it's rising and subsiding, good, bad, the whole spectrum of the human experience, which we know, we feel joy, we feel grief. But how to remain as the sky,
That's it.
that's like the work.
That's the work, if you want to call it work, but it's actually like just remembering that your name is Bobby and not Susan. Like we were
Yeah.
saying before, like you're not who you have taken yourself to be, and you don't need to struggle and make so many efforts to try and prove, something that you already are. And also, I just want to say, when you were talking about the good, the bad, and there's on one side the happiness and the joy and the uplifting part, the positive, and on the other side there's the, what feels painful and and a lot of discomfort. And so we're always trying to remove the discomfort so that we can have the positive. So I'm going to say something interesting here, because the sky is neither, right? Who we are is actually neutral. So this struggle to try and push away the negative so that I can only have the positive, you're going against what's natural. There's always going to be both, right? As long as you've got day, you're going to have night. As long as you have happiness, you're going to have unhappiness, just like you were saying. As long as you have comfort, you're going to have discomfort. It's just a matter of time. These are natural cycles of mind. And so to try and change that because of some idea that I have, because I don't know that the truth has nothing to do with these pairs of opposites. The truth is the sky, and the sky contains them all. So now I'm not struggling with the pairs of opposites. I've stepped back. I've paused on this involvement with the pairs of opposites, and that's my victory, even though it doesn't look like it. It looks like nothing. It looks like absolutely nothing to my mind. And the mind doesn't like the feeling of nothing, so it keeps trying to create something. So if you can just be with that feeling of stepping back and not calling it nothing, call it space, call it sky, call it your neutral witness, whatever you want to call it, that's you. You're already that. But it won't happen if you don't pause, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. I just want to read what Martine wrote in the chat. My name is not Susan, her new mantra. She said, sometimes something simple can be so profound at the same time. And
Oh,
it's
that's
so
great.
true.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how you kind of caught me there, because I also see the habit of the mind, even to think that knowing oneself as sky space is work. And like you
Yeah.
said, because we've been indoctrinated into this work
Right.
complex in the mind. And I'm just editing one podcast episode right now with this wonderful adaptive yoga teacher who's in a wheelchair from Brazil. And he's really cool. And he said something so suitable to this conversation. He said, what if we started using rest as resistance? And
Beautiful.
and it's so
Yeah.
beautiful to what we're speaking about, because it's actually a resting in this space. It's not trying to work and churn to get it, like uncover it, peel it off. But that's the way the mind is, kind of my mind anyways, designed. But what if we reframe it to relaxing into the
That's right.
beingness that we are, you know?
That's right. And this whole idea, because of this um, paradigm that we live with all the, busyness that we were talking about, there's this sense that I have to make efforts and produce something. And so then I take that into my sadhana and I think I have to make efforts and produce something. How can you produce that which you already are? So it's not you can't. It's impossible. There's no amount of hours. It's not like, you're going to do this many hours and then you're going to produce it. You are simply being that which you already are. So in any moment when those difficulties come, like you were bringing up before, if we can remember that we're already that, like I'm the sky right now, even with this difficulty, even with this uncomfortable thought, even with this bad feeling, right? I keep waiting that when the bad feeling goes away, then I'll be the space. When the difficulty goes away, then I'll be the space, right? So if I can somehow come out of that whole paradigm, which happens when I pause, suddenly it's like I'm already that, no matter what looks like it's going on in the world. It's like if I'm asleep and I'm dreaming and I'm having a bad dream, right? And I'm trying to solve a problem in the dream. And I'm making all kinds of efforts in the dream to solve the problem in the dream. And then I wake up. Like it's irrelevant what I was doing in the dream. And even if I made like 50 hours of efforts in the dream, when I wake up, those hours mean nothing. They belong to the dream, which isn't real. So it's like we just need to remember that we're already woken up. And that's where these kinds of conversations are so vital, because we won't on our own, when we're just driving in our car or moving from one busy thing to the next busy thing, we don't easily, let's put it that way, think like this or remember this or create this kind of um, field of resonance that happens when we talk like this. And so it's very, very important.
Yeah, the field of resonance, which kind of just got the inspiration. I had asked you to bring your guitar
Oh, yeah.
because and I think we're kind of leading to that point of, whether it's a conversation or a song or a meditation or whatever it is that attracts us to that space of resting within ourselves. So maybe would you delight us with one of your songs and we can
Sure.
just close our eyes and
Sure. That would
relax
be
into
great.
that space and
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Yeah. I have my guitar.
Good.
I'm just going to sing a simple Shiv chant that also is very nice for meditation. And anyone can also join. So great. Om Namo Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Om Namo Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Om Namah Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Om Namah Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Om Namah Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Om Namah Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Om Namah Shivaya Gurudev Satchidananda Murtaye. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Namastasye, 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 namo.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider supporting the show at patreon.com/A Curious Yogi podcast. And please leave a review. It really helps the show reach more people. Let's stay curious, connected, and keep walking the path together. In total delight, this is Bobby signing off until next time. Thank you so much, Hirdaya. Just totally beautiful. Wow. Oh my gosh. Just taking us to the next plane of
No.
consciousness. It's so, uh, yeah. That's like hearing you sing, yeah, beautiful in the comments. It's
No.
just meeting in that space where we're not even talking, but like the Shravan is happening, the space is coming forward. Like, from
Beautiful.
where does the voice come? From where does
Yeah.
the mantra come? From the Shiv space, from the
Yes.
absolute. And
Beautiful.
uh,
Beautiful.
so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think that's, like for those that are listening, hopefully when I post the episode, I'll invite people to listen to the episode sitting somewhere comfortable so that the spontaneous meditation can happen, not when people are driving or something.
Yeah.
Because
Good idea. Yeah.
it's what brings us into that space where we can relax. And
Yeah.
Swamiji also, one time I heard him say that like the only relaxation happens when you know you're unborn. And it's
Oh,
like
beautiful. Yeah.
what allows us to relax into that is hearing the truth. And that's where us as curious yogis, our ears perk up.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Totally.
want to maybe just share the meaning of that mantra, that bhajan?
Um, yeah. Om Namo Shivaya is I bow down to Shiv, the um, that sort of absolute principle. And also bliss. Shiv is also bliss. Om Namo Shivaya Gurave. So the guru. Sat Chit Anand is pure existence, pure consciousness, and pure bliss. And Murtaye means murti, like the form or the representation. So and then Namastasye is like namaste, like I just bow down, I just bow down, I just bow down to that. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, it's
Perfect. It's a
beautiful.
good one we can sing along to as well.
Yeah, that's what I wanted that people could sing.
Exactly. Well, it's so beautiful, and I think it's such a good point to end our conversation. And I'll
Great.
definitely share, when I share the episode, your website. And I know you do online satsangs for those in
Yeah.
certain time zones. So I'll put all the information there because I know people want to sing with you more and learn with
Good.
you because you're such a jewel in my life, and I know
Aw,
everybody will love to hear you, especially, and also the episode, the original episode of the Curious Yogi, so people can go
right.
back and hear your extraordinary story of really living in the Himalayas and studying your whole entire life, pretty much, with
Pretty much.
self-realized being and
Yeah.
devoting your life to this knowledge. And it shows in the way you
Oh,
speak and the way you
thank
teach and just the
you.
way you live. So I love you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. I love you so much too. And this was just such a fulfilling conversation. Exactly what, I feel like must be the point of these conversations is to reach this place where we feel so fulfilled, and the Shravan gets fulfilled. So,
Exactly. Great. And big thanks to Jackie, who's like one of my
yeah.
also OG Patreon members. She's been supporting the show for
Oh,
so long. She's been to India, and I hope that Jackie's participation and presence inspires other people to support the podcast and join us for these live episodes because the more the merrier.
absolutely.
Thank you
Yeah.
so
So
much. What a way,
fantastic.
what a way to
Oh,
spend
such
a Tuesday afternoon. I am so grateful to the two of you.
Oh, it's so
Wonderful. Thank
nice
you.
to be
Thank
with
you.
you, Jackie.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming.